I want to go through the concept of formless and void at the beginning of the Bible because you're seeing that actually right now, and I'll tell you how. If you're looking at all this now, this is with form and filled. So it's the form that's been filled in, and it's the void that's been filled in. But if you take the headset off, this is what you see. You see the Oculus. If you look at the outside of the Oculus, you don't see canyons. You don't see any forms. You don't see any fill. If you took the cover off, I haven't done that on mine, but I presume you would see something of a circuit board protected with some sort of protection. You know that inside there, if you were able to peel it apart, I haven't done it. Some of you hardware gurus probably have by now, just to see what's inside the thing. You do understand the concept that it is simply a model of a mind upholding thoughts. That's what the Oculus computer does. And if you were to open it up and if you were able to see the circuit board, you would not see the canyons, you would not see the air, you would not see the heavens, you would not see the earth as you do when you put the headset on. What you are seeing is you are seeing the same thing without form and void. No form, no fill. The Oculus and other brands that are similar, containing computers, they contain a physical model of a mind. But what the computers do is they hold on to and process thoughts. And that's pretty much all that they do. There are no forms or fills for the thoughts, but the thoughts within the Oculus, the software, the programming, which was thought out by people and placed there, it contains the entirety. Now, if it were a movie, such as the old DVDs, one of the nice things about DVDs is you could pick them up after they were burnt, and you could kind of hold them at an angle, and you could see the burn marks as circles on the surface. And you couldn't see the individual markings, but you understood that it was ones and zeros encoded in the plastic and could be read by machinery and then recalled. And you know that the DVDs typically contained entire movies, 2 hours worth of sound and video. Well, if you added some sort of coding for haptics, you could add touch as well. The Oculus kind of does that. The DVD was a little cooler because you could actually see the burn marks. You could see the area where the thoughts were contained. You can't really see it looking at the outside of the circuit boards, but the same concept applies. They contain the entirety, the thoughts that contain all of the canyons, all of the layers, all of the air, all of the space, the sun, and also when you're looking at the canyon in the Oculus, the Horseshoe Bend Canyon, you're looking at a sample of the entire Earth. It doesn't contain the entire Earth, but take it as a sample. You can look up in the sky and you're seeing a sample of the heavens. Well, how much can you contain in there? Well, if you did an application on the whole world, you could see the whole world. If you did it on the galaxy, you could see the whole galaxy. The point is, you look at the Oculus itself and you're seeing the entirety. From the outside, it looks formless and void. When you put it on, and when those things are translated and presented to your senses, then you see forms and fills. Isn't it interesting that the forms and fills presented in Genesis, by the description of what was there step by step, they relate to the senses present on the human body of men and women from top to bottom, specifically in that order. The first thing mentioned before God said there was light was water. There was darkness on the face of the deep. It's implied as water, and later in the Bible it says that the earth was made out of water. Why is that important? Because if you're going to represent the sensations of the human body from top to bottom by somebody who's writing a description that's going to have something, an interesting pattern encoded in, you'd put water, because if you're in a pool and there's no light, you can't see anything, but you can feel the water. There's nothing solid in it, so it's not like feeling with your hands. There's nothing specific you can feel, but you feel it all over your entire body using the largest sensory organ of your body, your skin. That runs from the top of your head to the soles of your feet and everywhere in between. So if you hold your breath and go underwater, you can feel that in a swimming pool. And what you feel is you feel it on the top of your head. So the first sense you would get if you were in formless water, in the deep, you would feel it on the top of your head. The next thing God says is, let there be light. Well, guess what? That comes to the next sense organ, which is below the top of the head, and that is the eyes, the visual sense. The next one was create the air, the atmosphere, the sky. Well, that feeds two senses. Your ears, with pulsations that hit your ear, the hairs on your inner ear, and your nose, which senses smells that are blown by the wind. So you have two senses at about the same height on the body that are below the eyes, below the top of the head, and that was the next thing that God put out as something to feed the senses. Below that, there was land and plants on the next day, on the third day, land and plants. Well, that gives you something you can touch. So none of the others were touchable. They weren't the haptic sense. But land, something solid, plants that have specific shape, you can touch. Plants were also made for us to eat before the fall and before the flood. And so that's your sense of taste. And those are the two lowest sense organs on the body, the taste at the bottom of the head, and the hands, which interestingly are sort of the final sense. They can reach from the top of the head to the soles of the feet. And in the book on this, I put that you can prove that it can reach out and touch all the other parts of the body that have senses by doing head and shoulders, knees and toes. Scientifically proven by that song. So the interesting thing is that we went from formless and void, which you would get again if you looked at the outside of the Oculus. When you put the Oculus on and issue the commands to display from the formless and void, from the thoughts, you get things presented to you all at once, but Genesis presents them one at a time. And it's interesting that it proceeds from the top of the body, the human body, down through the senses day by day as things are added to the creation.